Good afternoon, welcome back to my channel. It is Tuesday. I'm a day late watching the new episode. I'll be honest, this week has started out pretty rough. I'm not feeling the greatest, but here we go. The Gilded Age, episode 7, Irresistible Change. This is like the laziest setup ever, but I am not having a good day. I am struggling to find any teensy tiny bit of energy. So, let's do this. This episode starts with George Russell giving a presentation on Union Central Station, which is a railroad station in New York City. I'm thinking he's giving like a pitch presentation, and they have a fancy miniature version set up which they illuminate with electricity. And everyone freaks out about it, goes crazy, lots of applause. After that, Larry approaches his dad and finally tells him he wants to be an architect, and it goes about as well as expected. He is very upset. Agnes is still not talking to Bannister. It's mean, it's petty, but it's hilarious. Throughout the entire episode, she has Ada speak to Bannister on her behalf. She refuses to address him directly. What'd she call him at one point? Can you go fetch that reprobate Bannister? Or something like that? Bannister really wants to find out who sent the letter ratting him out. I don't blame him. I have a new theory. I was really convinced it's Turner because she will do anything to bring chaos to the Russell house. However, there's someone else that had even more of a reason to get Bannister in trouble, and that's Church, the Russell butler. He was jealous that Bertha allowed Bannister to come in and take his place for the McAllister luncheon. So now I'm thinking it was probably Church. Could still be Turner, but I don't know, I think Church had more of a motive. Larry runs into Marian and tells her about his fight with his father over wanting to be an architect. It's a very brief interaction, but an interaction nonetheless. I feel like we're seeing them interact a lot more as the episodes go on. Gladys and Miss Astor hang out again. They discuss practicing for Gladys's debutante ball, as well as Miss Astor's affection for someone named Mr. Wilson. She likes him, but her mother does not. Gladys, trying to be a good friend, says that she will invite this Mr. Wilson to her ball so that he and Miss Astor can dance together. Gladys's mother, Bertha, walks in, and she is very quick to set a date for the ball. Well, not set a date, but agree to set a date. Also, Miss Astor encourages her to invite her mother. She admits that her mother is very curious about the Russell home and wants to see the inside of it. So Bertha jumps at the chance to invite the Astors to her home. This is where we see Gladys's face drop. I feel like in this moment she realizes why her mother is all of a sudden so eager to have her out in society. It has nothing to do with her trusting her daughter and everything to do with her fishing for Mrs. Astor's approval. I feel like in that moment she realized, and you can see the sadness and the disappointment in her face. It made me sad. George Russell met with his legal team. Basically, the evidence against him is a note that doesn't specifically order his men to use old parts, but it does say do whatever it takes to save money. His legal team isn't really sure what way the trial will go, but the worst that can happen is a charge of manslaughter by negligence, which would put him in prison. And that kind of overshadows everything else. Agnes does talk to Oscar about having a romantic relationship with Bertha's lady's maid, Turner. We don't see the conversation, but we do see Oscar storming out of the house, visibly upset. Marian is coming. Is she coming down the stairs? No, I think she's walking into the house. He's coming out. So she obviously walks into where her aunts are and asks what's going on. They tell her and ask her to speak with Mrs. Russell, to ask her to fire Turner. I don't know why Agnes thinks that's okay, putting Marian in the middle of everything. That is such an uncomfortable place to be. I do find it funny, though, that Agnes really wants Turner fired because, like, I think we all want that. And technically firing Turner would help the Russells, because at the moment she's literally spying on them and trading information for money. Once again, the Russells have an argument. George is caught up in the fact that he is facing prison time if the worst happens. Bertha is all wrapped up in her affairs and pleasing Mr. McAllister. The big thing right now is that Mr. Thomas Edison is putting on this grand electricity presentation. George is the guest of honor, and Bertha is hosting a picnic in 2 carriages so they can eat and then watch the show from like front row seats. You know, she's just like all wrapped up in the planning, and George is like, I might go to prison. This stuff does not matter. And she just does not understand that, like, at all. She keeps telling him, we're gonna fight this, we're gonna get through this together. Technically, as a spouse, she's not saying bad things, but she's also not being realistic about any of it. I think in her head, when she's saying those things, she thinks they're untouchable, and they're not. Like, one of these days, there will be consequences for the things that they do. Peggy meets with her boss, Mr. Fortune, and he lets her know that they will both be attending Mr. Edison's electricity ceremony together to report on it. They will be writing an article about Mr. Edison and the light bulb and the ceremony, but Mr. Fortune also wants to bring awareness to a black inventor named Louis Latimer because he has actually improved Edison's design. He thinks people should be aware of that. He thinks Mr. Edison should be aware of that and address it. The cool thing is that in real life, Latimer ended up working alongside Edison. Another fun tidbit, he also worked for Alexander Graham Bell when he was inventing the telephone. The more you know. Marian does meet with Bertha. It's very awkward, but she addresses her Aunt Agnes wanting Bertha to fire Turner. She doesn't mention the man's name, she just tells her that her aunt has concerns about Turner's relationship with somebody that the family knows. Bertha says that's not really enough evidence for her to fire her lady's maid, but she'll talk to her about it. Then she brings up Thomas Edison's ceremony and Tom Raikes. So remember a couple episodes ago when I had a minor panic attack about Tom Raikes and the Russell family? Remember all that? And I was scared that Bertha might try and matchmake with her daughter? After I had that little panic attack, I took it back as sort of an overreaction. But this moment made me go back to that. Basically, she only has so many seats. George is the guest of honor, so he'll be on the stage. Bertha and her kids, Larry and Gladys, will be there. Mr. McAllister, a woman named Miss Bingham, Aurora, Fane, and her husband, and they have one more seat for a guest. And it has to be a man, is what she says. She asks Marian if she would mind her asking Tom Raikes to join them. Marian, of course, tells her it's fine, but then Bertha's like, I'm sorry, it's just that, like, I can invite him, but I can't invite you. There's no more seats. Marian says it's fine, but you can tell on her face it's not fine. Tom Raikes is becoming somebody. Everyone really likes him because he's nice, but these aren't just, like, ordinary people. Like, the people who matter are really liking him. Now Bertha's inviting him to things on her own. Like, not someone asking her to invite him. Like, she's just inviting him. I don't know. I have suspicions. We'll see. Coincidentally, when Marian walks out of the Russell home, Tom is waiting for her across the street. He says a lot of adorable things about wanting to see her face all day, every day. I'll admit, I wasn't as uncomfortable with him this week. I was actually kind of mad at myself. He was saying some adorable things, but I'm not giving in because I know this is maybe headed for a not so happy ending. I mean, I want it to be a happy ending, but literally everyone in the world is convinced that he's not a good person and this is not going to end well for Marian. So I can't let myself hope anymore. Anyways, he really wants to see her more, and she tells him that Mrs. Chamberlain offered to host them in her home, so they agree to do so. Bertha hasn't talked to Turner yet, but it seems like she's about to. She's at the bottom of the stairs when she hears laughter. She looks up and sees Turner chatting with her son Larry and laughing, and she even touches his arm. Immediately after, she tells Turner she's letting her go. Wow. Like, it's so quick, but I'm scared because even if Turner's out of the Russell house, she's still gonna cause problems. I'm not sure where she goes from here. I do wonder if we still see her character or not, or if she's truly gone. I guess we'll see. If she is still a character, though, she's still gonna be trouble. No doubt about it. Actually, I bet she'll try and get a job in another influential family's house. Angry about being fired, Turner visits George Russell in his bedroom again. Thankfully, this time she's clothed. She tries to get under his skin. She thinks he got her fired, but he actually did not. She attempts to make him doubt the devotion of his wife. He shuts her down. He has no interest. However, you can tell that what she said got to him a little bit. There's a look on his face. A doubt. I don't think it's necessarily him wanting to have a relationship with her, but because of the fights he's been having with Bertha, I think he does doubt a teensy tiny bit her devotion to him. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what I read on his face. Next we see Tom and Marian meet at Mrs. Chamberlain's house. He swears up and down he loves her. They need to just go against all the criticism of their relationship, specifically from her aunts, and just be together. He tells her, I love you so many times. He asks her to marry him again, and they kiss again. And it's much more romantic this time. And gosh dang it, I did get flutters. I did. I didn't want to, but I felt it. I hate myself for it. I really do. I hate that I did that. And I apologize to all of you, but I did. I have to be honest about all of it. Marian doesn't give him an answer. However, she is bracing herself against the wall, holding her stomach. Whew, she's got it bad, guys. She's got it real bad. Turner and Oscar meet to go their separate ways. Nothing more happens between them. Turner lets him know everything's gonna be fine. Gladys is actually coming out into society now. It'll be easier for you to see her around town. Just make sure you work fast with her and her parents. It all sounds so terrible. I feel so bad for this girl. She has no idea what's coming. Later, we hear Oscar talking about this again, and he says even if things with Gladys don't work out, he can still turn the Turner rumor into something good. Like he'll use it as a sort of smoke and mirrors, because Oscar is gay, and the reason he wants to marry Gladys is to cover that up, because people won't accept that from him. So he needs a wife. If things with Gladys don't work out, he'll use his affair, quote unquote, with Turner, use that rumor to his advantage to create a reputation and a picture of himself that isn't true, but it pleases everybody enough to not question him. Basically, Oscar will use anybody if it helps him. Larry talks to George again about becoming an architect. He gives a very passionate speech, and his father calls him very persuasive and actually agrees to think about it. So maybe he's coming around to the idea. I mean, honestly, it's for the best that he let his son be who he wants to be, because the way things are with George and his business, Larry seems a lot nicer and hopefully more honest than George. I don't think Larry would fill George's shoes the way George would want him to, if that makes sense. So it's for the best that Larry forge his own path. Marian talks to Aunt Agnes. She tries her best to convince her of Tom's worthiness, but Agnes doubles down on not trusting him. She insists that she is not falling for his good looks and charm. That's another thing that sets off alarm bells in the back of my head. Listen, Aunt Agnes is stubborn and she's mean, but she's not very often wrong. She's lived a lot of life. I want her to be wrong about Tom, I really do, but I don't know. Like, she really doesn't trust him at all. And there's gotta be a reason for that. I just want to keep that Pandora's box closed, I really do. Speaking of Tom, this Miss Bingham, who is part of their little picnic, makes a connection with him because they're seated next to one another. And he's being polite. I wouldn't say he's being in any way overly flirtatious with her, and I would be honest about that if he was. He's just being very nice, but you can tell that she is being a little more flirtatious. They're all talking about the city of Newport and vacationing there. They ask Tom if he's ever been there, and he's like, no, but I'd really love to visit someday. And she's like, oh, my family has a home there. Let me know if you're ever there. Basically saying, when you're there, I'll give you a place to stay. Which is so brazen. I don't know what that was about, but it scares me because Tom is being invited to society events without Marian, and things like this will continue to happen. He's a good-looking man. Some parents won't let their daughters marry him because he doesn't have a fortune, but other parents might not care about that. Also, as he starts to gain a good reputation, I'm assuming that could lead to good things for his career. There's just a lot of things happening around Tom at the moment, and I don't really know what direction his character's going to take, what direction the story's going to take. It just seems like such a big storm for something that's headed in the direction of happily ever after. But that could also mean it is headed for a happily ever after. I mean, that's what adds drama. If the path is, twisty and turny, not straight. I don't know. I'm just babbling now. Those first few episodes were absolute bliss, and it was too good to be true. At the ceremony, we see Mr. Fortune and Peggy. There's a very brief moment where the camera focuses in on his hand on her waist, guiding her through the big crowd. It's a very brief but very sweet moment. We haven't really seen a ton of them together yet since she got the job, but we'll get there. And seriously, I need one couple I'm rooting for to make it. The episode ends with Thomas Edison's ceremony. The New York Times building is illuminated with electricity, and it's a very beautiful scene, and honestly, I kind of got chills with everyone's reaction. It is so interesting seeing everyone so impressed with electricity, right? It's something magical and new, because now it's 2022 and electricity is no big deal. I did really like how that scene turned out, how everything looked when the building was being lit up. It looked very beautiful. It gave me chills, so job well done. What? Wait, what the heck is this? Wikipedia has the title for episode 8, which is called Tucked Up in Newport. I'm just wondering what that means. Does something happen with Miss Bingham? And is that something with Tom Raikes, or is it unrelated? I really hope it's unrelated. After what I just told you about them and what happened in the episode? No. Alright, well that was a bombshell I wasn't expecting. Now I will not be sleeping until next Monday. That's great. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode. Ugh, yeah, let's discuss it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that red button down below to subscribe and become a member of my YouTube family. Also, click the bell to turn on your notifications. Click the link down below if you would like to become a patron and financially support future content. There are 10 tiers to choose from, so something for every budget, and video suggestions are always welcome. I will see you next week. Bye!